We got beat up 2 years in a row in the playoffs, so I think there's a lot of reflection needed from players, but from the organization, from top to down. Everybody needs to reflect and see what we can do better, so I think that's the next step.
The Blue Jays season is over after a lackluster showing against Minnesota in their wild card series. Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of the Sun Sports Roundtable. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Sports columnist Steve Simmons and Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley. And guys, what a way for the Blue Jays to end their season. A controversial pitching change in game number 2. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting picked off at second base in a big spot and scoring just one run in a pair of games. Steve, what were your biggest takeaways from Game 2 and the series in the whole as the Blue Jays played maybe one of their worst postseason series in team history?
Well, I think you just touched on the two largest factors, and then we can move on from there. But start with the pitching change and pulling Berrios. I've watched, probably 90% of his starts as a Blue Jay, either live or on television, probably more on television. And I thought that was the best I've ever seen him. I thought he had absolutely electric stuff. How you pull him in the 4th inning at that point, not because he didn't have electric stuff, not because you were concerned about his 47 pitches, because you decided this before the game started. This was decided in meetings before the game was ever played. Can you imagine Bob Gibson being on the mound for one of his great outings, Nolan Ryan on the mound, one of those great, Jack Morris in the World Series going with how many innings he went. Who knows what Berrios would have done yesterday, but he looked like he had no-hit kind of stuff. How you make the decision before the game to pull him and then follow through with the decision in the game, I think that costs them the game then, because what they're telling everybody on their bench, in the park, and everyone else is, you guys don't matter. We matter. Our decisions matter. And I think it's a terrible way to operate any sport at any time.
Why on earth would they spend $130 million to extend Jose Berrios for 7 years, have him have the best season of his career, one of the best games of his career, Steve and I were discussing as it was unfolding last night, and then pull him? It's just ridiculous. It's the direction baseball is headed. I understand that. I understand that analytics is an important tool, and it is, but it has to be used properly, and you have to still have room for a gut and a sense of what's happening in a baseball game. And there was none of that involved in this decision. And I really wonder how that plays out in the clubhouse. We saw several players barely thinly veiled criticisms of the not only the decision, but what this front office is doing as a whole. And I don't think that bodes well for the Blue Jays at all.
Well, if you look at yesterday, at the end of the game, I like John Schneider. And John Schneider, I think, is caught in the midst of a lot of bullets around him. And so what he has to do in that situation is say, screw them. I'm going to make the right decision here. I'm not listening to all of this pregame. Sport is not played before the game has started. It's played when the game has started. It's played in that moment. If not, you'd never have upsets the way you see upsets all the time in sport, because they're human beings and they're emotional and things happen. And so Berrios gets pulled. Schneider says after the game that Jose was aware that this was going to happen. He was aware of the plan. Well, if he was aware of the plan, why was he crying? Both in the post-game interview and after they pulled him out. If he was aware, and if Guerrero was aware of the plan, how come Guerrero said, I don't know why they pulled him? How come almost every player asked, said, well, why did they pull him? I love the Whit Merrifield quote. He didn't even play. The circumstance of why do you pull him from the game at that point? Well, everyone knew the plan. It's great that everyone knew the plan, but the plan was stupid. And the plan was predicated on, this is how the game is going to go. We're going to predetermine it up in our office before human beings, professional athletes, highly paid, skilled guys are going to play the game. And I'm sure part of that plan was not to have Vladimir Guerrero sleeping on second base in one of the rare times where they had a chance to get a run and getting embarrassingly picked off in one of the single worst base running blunders, frankly, I have seen in a very long time from a team that had a lot of base running blunders in this season, Rob.
And how pathetic is it that the front office is driving the narrative in the aftermath of this, and taking the brunt of the blame at this point, when the players themselves should be culpable as well. 1 run in 18 innings of playoff baseball? I mean, how ridiculously bad is that? Runners in scoring position in the first inning, the second inning, the fifth inning, the sixth inning, each of those they had 2 men on base and they couldn't get a run across. Yet the front office is taking a bunch of the blame because of the way they handled the situation last night. In the broader picture, they deserve a lot of the blame as well, because 12 months ago, almost to the day, Ross Atkins decided that his offseason strategy to make this team a playoff team would be to reduce its offense, improve its defense and its pitching. And look at where that got them. This offense is flawed. This lineup has been flawed from the start, and we saw it unfold in the most damning way over the past 2 days.
Yesterday in the ball game, when you get to the point where you see Berrios doing what he's doing, what hasn't really come up very much is that wasn't the A game for Sonny Gray. He was struggling. He was having trouble getting guys out. There was a lot of pitches that were left in places that should have been hit or could have been hit. It wasn't like the opening game with Lopez. Gray was very hittable yesterday. The Jays could have scored runs against him had the offense been better. But as you pointed out, Rob, they didn't come up with key hits and key moments. And here is Guerrero on second base with Bo Bichette, who is far and away the best hitter on this baseball team, and a chance to get a run in a 2-0 game to make it 2-1. And you're sleeping when Correa sneaks behind you and picks you off. Like, how does that happen? So you can blame the offense for not scoring. You can blame the management for what they did. This was a collaborative effort of falling all over yourselves. But boy, I never take the ball from a guy that's throwing that great. Well, he could have gone 7 innings and give up nothing. You could be going into the 8th and have Hicks and Romano pitching 8 and 9, and maybe it's 0-0, maybe it's 1-0, maybe you sneak a run across, maybe you got a couple against Sonny Gray in the 4th or the 5th. You don't know. You don't know. You know why? Because it's sport. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't predetermine sports.
You nailed it, Steve. It was a collaborative effort, and this is team collaboration. So what do you expect from them? And here's another thing. What does the fancy computer say with its algorithms and its analytics? What if the Jays could actually score some runs? What if they had a 4-0 lead at that point? Do you then allow Jose Berrios, who is dealing, do you then allow him to stay in the ball game, or do you just they're managing out of fear? It's just I don't know how fans put up with this team, to be honest.
I love that line, managing out of fear, and I wish I had used it in the column last night, because to me it was being afraid of the opponent. You managed in that way. You played to lose, or played not to win, and that's not how sports is played. That's not how pro athletes are wired. You don't get no one on a computer did Joe Carter have his home run predicted in the last inning to win the World Series. That happened because a guy threw a lousy pitch and he hit it out. That's what happens. Guys throw lousy pitches every inning and every ball game played. What do you do with them when they come? And but when you beat yourself, my God, and that's why people were so down, I think, on this team the entire year. Atkins kept talking about, they're going to have offense. Our numbers are telling us we're going to have offense. Well, guess what, Ross? You scored 1 run in 2 playoff games, and it's bye-bye Blue Jays, and bye-bye the American League East being the great division that it is when Tampa Bay gets shelled at the same time. So the 2 teams from the AL East, which are supposed to be the elite teams, are both gone quickly and quietly in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of reflection for this team top to bottom come the off season. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Steve Simmons and Rob Longley, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another Sun Sports Roundtable.